Hey, good morning. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about YouTube, which is we're here on YouTube, and podcasting, taking the audio and putting it on a podcast. Can you do both? What does that actually look like? How do you manage that? Is it even a smart thing to do? We're going to talk about all these things and more today because it's actually one of the top questions that I've always been getting lately. Now that podcasting is on the rise, YouTube is a full focus for a lot of people too. Can we do both of these and can we still stay sane doing it? Let's figure out the answers today. We're going to talk about it, answer some questions, and help you out today. Thanks so much for joining me on the Income Stream. Welcome to the show.
This is the Income Stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the Income Stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The Income Stream with Flynn.
Awesome. Welcome, Kathy, Romer, Tina, Chris, Fit Over 50, Stephanie, Uncle Bill. We got Andrew in the house. Welcome in, Ryan, Lufar, John, Lisa, Kathy, Wendy. We got Brandon probably listening in while he's at work, and a few others too. So welcome. Again, thank you so much for being here today. Today we're talking about YouTube and podcasting, and can this be done together? First, to start off this conversation, let's talk about each of these more uniquely, the pros and cons of each, and then we'll kind of merge the two together to see how we might be able to do this and marry them in a way. And now, I will preface this by saying there's no perfect way for everybody. There's no here's what works and everybody should do it. I think it also depends on your situation. It also depends on your productivity levels, your efficiencies, your systems that you already have in place. And I'll also preface this by saying, just because I talk about these things and I'm about to share the benefits of them doesn't mean you personally need to do them. Now it's something you know about that can potentially work. But if you've already said yes to something and you know you're still in the middle of focusing on that, I'm not saying add on this other thing on top of that before you complete this thing, because this is where we start to get into trouble, right? We start to have squirrel syndrome. We start to get to that phase where we are trying all the things and nothing's doing any work for us. And that's because we're doing all the work and nothing's doing any work for us. So that's what I just want to make sure we don't get into. So first, let's talk about podcasting. Podcasting has been around for a very long time. Obviously, it's picking up steam. We are about to cross, if we haven't done so already, 2 million podcasts. That's actually not very much at all comparative to 50 million active YouTube channels and 500 million active blogs. Podcasting, we're still in the early days of it, and that's one of the benefits of getting in now is you can get in early, you can get in before even a bigger rush of people come in. Now, it may seem saturated, and part of the reason why it seems saturated is just because it's still so new. Yes, it's been around since 1999, but only now it's become mainstream, but it feels saturated because the tools haven't yet caught up to the consumption. And what I mean is it's often quite difficult to find podcasts. It's not like YouTube where things get recommended in a very similar fashion. One episode of the podcast doesn't potentially lead you into somebody else's podcast, at least not on normal podcasting apps. And findability can be very difficult. That's one of the cons behind it. But one of the pros is, for sure, way more than YouTube. Two things. Number one, the ease of use of creation. Right? It's so much easier to create a podcast. It's just audio only, typically. And it's going to be something where you don't even need to wear pants. You don't even need to do your makeup or do your hair. And you can just record your voice. Less equipment needed, much easier to batch produce and publish and stay consistent. So in that regard, awesome. Secondly, when you consider time of consumption for the people who are consuming on that particular platform, podcast takes the cake by far. Podcasting, people listen to 70 to 90% often. If you, of course, hook people in, you find your tribe, you get people coming in a nice manner, and your community will come and continue to show up for you and listen often all the way through. And what's really beautiful about that is that it will garner 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour's worth of your voice in a person's head, which is incredible. Whether it's an interview show or a solo show, that's a lot of time in front of an audience. Unlike on YouTube, where on YouTube, unless it's a live situation like this, and very similar to a podcast, we've built a relationship here. But for normal pre-recorded video on demands or VODs, those things, if you get people watching for more than 4 or 5 minutes, you're actually doing really, really well, which is kind of sad that 5 minutes is doing very, very well, right? Versus like people listening to a podcast for 5 minutes is not very much at all. So there's a huge benefit of being on a podcast and using your voice to put yourself out there and scale that intimacy that can happen. You're actually more intimate with your listeners than some people are with their partners. What I mean by that is literally, this is how close you are. You're like touching, and then you're hearing that voice. It's really intimate. To you as the podcast creator, it's one-to-many. To the person listening, it feels one-to-one. And if you're a podcaster, try whispering every once in a while. It gets really creepy. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's why I love podcasting. Sorry if that creeped you out. Made you tingle a little bit. Little ASM, Pat Flynn ASMR there, right? Okay. Don says, hi, peeps. Stopping to eat lunch with you. Thanks for eating lunch with us. What are you having? So let's talk about YouTube. What are the benefits of YouTube? What does YouTube have to offer that podcasting cannot? Because YouTube takes a little bit more work. There is video and audio at the same time. You have to hold people's attention. People aren't watching for as long, so why even do it in the first place? Well, here's why. Because any one video could be found through the algorithm and shown to millions and millions of people. There is an algorithm that can support you if you create videos that supports YouTube. And what I mean is, if you help people understand that they need to watch these videos all the way through, well, guess what? YouTube is going to do its job with all the data that they have, all the viewing history that they have from people, and they're going to go, oh, this video might seemingly be good to these kinds of people. Let's send them out and see how it does. And if you nail the click and stick strategy, Treasury TV says that's messed up. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If you nail the click and stick strategy, the click being the title and the thumbnail, and the stick being the hook and keeping people all the way through, your videos can be seen by people that don't even know you exist yet. It's very, very difficult to do that with the podcast. It's done on YouTube. Now, it's not a create it and they will do all the work for you. It's not a build it and they will come situation. There's still work required. And we've talked many days here on the Income Stream about strategies to master YouTube, but it works. Case in point, my other YouTube channel that I started very recently, and even videos that I've recently come out with here on this channel that are pre-recorded, not the live videos, it's a little bit separate, but they're reaching out to new people, they're getting more subscribers, and you can even monetize through YouTube through AdSense, which you cannot do on podcasting yet unless you're on certain platforms that have that sort of situation going on. And on Deep Pocket Monster, my Pokemon channel, I came out with a video last week about a mystery box that I opened up. It is just about to pass, I think, 120,000 downloads. It's already earned most of the money back from spending money on that mystery box, and it's just going to become this self-perpetuating thing, which is going to be really neat. So I'm excited to see where this channel goes, but we're putting so much effort into how are we going to place the title and thumbnail in a way where when people see it, they're going to want to click on it. How are we going to hook people in right from the beginning and keep them watching all the way to the end? That's hard to do. And even when we did that, even when we had the highest retention rate in any video that we've ever had, the watch time still averages about 6 minutes. And again, that's high versus 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour on a podcast. So you have the algorithm. You have the idea that other people's videos may end up pushing their viewers to your videos through recommendations. You might have the search engines help you as well. A lot of the search helps this channel for terms like how to start a podcast, how to do email marketing, or even specific products like ConvertKit and whatnot. So that's pretty crazy. We just passed 18,000 subscribers on Deep Pocket Monster as well. So thank you so much for supporting me with that channel. It's been really fun. We got Chris Ducker in the house, by the way. Chris is one of my best friends. He says, looking good. Thank you, my friend. Chris was a guest on our show not too long ago, which was really cool. But we're talking about podcasting and YouTube today, and we've talked about each of these things separate. But how might they actually work together in a way where hopefully we can get some results? We could get the benefit of YouTube and the algorithm and getting more people to find us, and have the benefit of the long-term relationship and the intimacy that we can have with an audio show. How do we marry the two? Well, let's talk about the different kinds of ways people are doing this, because people are doing it in all different kinds of ways. And again, to preface this, I'm going to mention what I said earlier. What works for some might not work for you. And I think that that's really important because A, it's going to take perhaps some experimentation. B, it's going to take a little bit more research once you start to understand these scenarios to go, oh, I like that. Let me find others like them and see how they do it. And number 3, we need to make sure that you have the capacity to do this, because when you start to add a new arm to your brand, like a new platform, like if you're a YouTuber, you're adding podcast, or if you're a podcaster, adding YouTube. I'll talk about those journeys in a minute here. It can either be seen as a distraction from other things that you probably know you need to do if you haven't mastered the thing yet or optimized it, or it could work out very well. But I don't want it to be a distraction, and we have to understand that what works for some might not work for us, but it may work for you. So let's talk about it. So here is what some people are doing. Let's start on let's start with video first. Let's say you are a YouTuber. Since we're here on YouTube, this is where we're going to start. Say you are a YouTuber and you want to add a podcast to your brand. You have the option of going, okay, well, I have this video show. Now I'm going to create a completely separate audio show. Obviously, the most work because it's going to be completely separate. You might name it different or something similar. I know there's people, for example, Peter McKinnon, a YouTuber here, very prominent in the video and camera space. He has a podcast with his friend Maddie, but it's not taking the audio from the videos. The videos are very much separate than the audio files. And this is how I treat YouTube as well. YouTube is a separate platform, and I build videos specific for YouTube. Podcasting is a specific platform, and I build podcasts for that platform. To me, podcasting is about storytelling, it's about information and infotainment, which can be done in a different way, but yes, here on YouTube as well. But I treat these platforms separately, but that adds the most work, just letting you know. It is the simplest in terms of approach, because it's just, oh, here's A and here's B. They don't really cross over other than, hey, find me on YouTube for this, and hey, find me on a podcast for this. Right? On a podcast, you can go deeper into storytelling, where on YouTube, for example, it might be more instructional, might be more tutorial based, for example. But what if you wanted to try to become as efficient as possible? Can you do YouTube to audio podcasts in an efficient manner? Here's how some people are doing it. By the way, quick little energy check in the chat. Give me on a scale of 1 to 10 how energized you are about this topic. I'm just curious, because if you're a 1, hopefully it's at least entertaining to you. And if you're a 10, if you're stoked on this and of all the things that we're about to go to, let me know in the chat. Give me a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being you're excited, you're ready, you're fired up. I want to feed off that energy. This helps get me going too. So let's keep it going. Hopefully the audio is audio-tastic. Hopefully the video is video-tastic. Whichever you choose, I'm excited. But again, give me a score on how excited you are about what we're about to talk about. So let's talk about YouTube first. How do we add a audio show in the most efficient manner? Brandon says 100. You overachiever. Okay, so here's how some people are doing it. I'm going to film a video. I'm going to just rip the audio out, and then I'm going to put it into an audio podcast. And that's the way it is. And there you go. You've sort of doubled your work. 2 birds with 1 scone, because I don't want to throw rocks and stones at birds. So feeding 2 birds with 1 scone. That's the humane way to talk about that phrase, right? So here's the thing. This works. I know some people who do this and they do it very well, but there's a huge but here. Huge but. We got to make sure that the audio experience, if we want this to work, we got to make sure that the audio experience is still as great as the video experience. Because here's the thing. If I go, hey guys, look at this on the chart here, down here, all these things that you're seeing on this video, here's how to put this together. Imagine I take that audio out and put it into just its own audio podcast. That's not necessarily going to bode well for the listeners who are like, what are you pointing to? What are you looking at? So that's where people struggle. If you have a niche where you're often going to be referencing things visually and you're a YouTuber first, you might want to think differently about how you approach this strategy, right? It may in fact be better for you to take audio separate to create its own audio platform. And in many cases, this works. Imagine you are a photographer, right? And this is what Peter McKinnon and Maddie do. On their show, they tell stories. On their show, they tell instructions that don't require visuals, but are more about the experience. If you are a wedding photographer and you're teaching other wedding photographers, obviously it's gonna be very difficult to teach on an audio show how to use a camera, but on an audio show, you could definitely teach people how to work with clients, You could tell stories about bridezillas. You could tell stories about booking clients and what it was like to get started and interview other people. So in that case, it may make complete sense for this thing to be separate. But how might we do it? How might we actually make this work? Well, I know a lot of people who are actually approaching YouTube in a way where it's going to actually be a podcast. They know it's going to be a podcast, and they're going to be filming it, but they're going to film it with video. So what does this look like? In many cases, on the lower end, it's, let's say, for example, you are going to be doing an interview with somebody. So you just turn on the cameras. Hey, Archer, thank you so much for the super chat. Brandon, thank you so much for joining Team Flynn Gold. Both of you are epic for supporting the channel. Thank you so much. So many people are turning their cameras on when recording a podcast, knowing that it's eventually going to be audio. So let's say you and I were getting on a podcast together. We go on Squadcast, and we use the brand new video feature, hashtag I'm an advisor for the company, just for full disclosure about that. What's up, Brandon? There you are. You turn on the cameras, and you just record. And maybe it's a side-by-side situation. Maybe you get a little fancy with the editing, and when that person's talking, they show up. When you're talking, you show up, and that becomes the YouTube video. Cool. That's obviously something that is probably simultaneously recorded in a way that you can rip the audio out and turn it into a podcast. Great. Now you have a video with people talking, and then you have an audio podcast with people talking, and they kind of work well. But here's the struggle with that. The struggle with that is, how do we make this video of two people talking interesting enough to keep people watching? Now, many people have different opinions about this, and here's mine. Again, just my own opinion, so here's a grain of salt. I don't recommend doing that. And here's why. Because in my opinion, I see that if you have let's just say, for example, a 45-minute video that is just two people talking the whole time, especially if it's about a bunch of different things, and especially if it's not a celebrity who has staying power or retention power for those videos. This is why Joe Rogan does this, right? He films his podcast interviews. But he's also, number one, using multiple camera angles. Number two, he has the celebrity to keep people watching. That's why they come. And of course, just Joe Rogan's a part of pop culture now, so big that it doesn't matter what he does, people are going to watch all the way through. We are not Joe Rogan. Now, you may be a Joe Rogan in your own space, in which case, cool, go and do this strategy. But in many cases, we are not that. And we have to fight harder to hold people's attention in those longer form videos. So especially when there's not a live component to it and it's not interactive, why would a person need to watch when they can just listen to this on the go? Now, you can make it visually compelling. You can have B-roll. You can have multiple camera angles. Our friend Thomas Frank does this on his, he actually has a separate channel for this, and that I think is smart. If you want to do this, he's shielding any sort of penalty being, okay, YouTube feeds this video out. It's a 45-minute video. People watch 4 minutes of it because it's just too long. Podcast format's different than video format. It's like, okay, well, I'm leaving. That signals to YouTube, okay, people come to this channel and they don't actually watch much of the videos, so let's not send other videos out as much as we could, right? So that's the strategy that Thomas uses, is having a separate channel to separate that. So if you wanted to work so hard to create this visual thing that on YouTube would keep people watching, then that lends itself to, well, then are actually people who are listening missing out? And it bodes that same question again, right? So it's just like, and editors too, yeah, there's a lot more stuff. Who's Joe Rogan? I know Pat Flynn. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. Thank you to the 100+ viewers that are here. Let's see if we can get to 100 likes before we finish the video. That'd be really cool. High five to those of you who have already given a like. I'd love to see you hit that button. That helps with the algorithm. Again, part of the benefit of YouTube, we have the algorithm. You can help out. Cool. What if it's a live stream interview, says McKellen. So again, very similarly, I'll tell you that live streams don't do a lot for growing the channel, but it's an amazing thing to build a relationship with those people. So if you have super fans, maybe you put the live stream interview behind the membership paywall that YouTube could allow for members. And that could be a really cool thing that people can, maybe if you are a member on YouTube, if the YouTube channel is separate and has pre-recorded videos about other things, you want to do the live interview, cool. But you're going to put it as a bonus for people who are members, and then they get to hear it first before it gets edited and then put onto an actual audio podcast. But again, that's where the conundrum is. That's where we have a little bit of a debate with relation to, should we actually put full videos on YouTube of podcasts? Yes, if they're visually compelling enough to hold people on, but if they're built specifically for visually compelling, then will it still lend itself to a good audio experience? That's the debate. That's the lever and the sort of like dial that we're trying to move around, right? So let's try going the other way around. What if we started audio first, right? You maybe do interviews, and yes, maybe you turn the camera on and not thinking about it from a YouTube first perspective, but thinking about it from an audio first perspective, right? How might you take an audio file and then put that onto YouTube? Well, there's many different ways to do that. Back in the day, when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore, but someday I sit and wish I was a kid again. Those are lyrics, by the way. Back in the day when I was starting out online business and podcasts were just coming on the scene, I remember the guys at Internet Business Mastery did this. They took their audio show, and all they did was they popped the audio onto YouTube, and the video was just one slide. It was just like, boom, a slide, and it said, host Jason, host Jeremy, come here, get your free gift here, and it was that slide the entire time. That didn't help them very much because YouTube doesn't, like, people want, like, there's no reason to watch that, right? Back in the day when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore, but someday I say, wish I was a kid again. Back in the day when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. I love that. That and I Wish were like my favorite songs. Anyway, do we then have talking head there? So on a podcast that's audio only, it's not talking head, but yeah, it would be two people talking or just you talking if it's a solo show, right? So some people will turn the camera on, and yeah, it would be talking head, but they don't care about YouTube. It's just a place to potentially find more views. They just kind of, okay, let's put it there anyway. That's better than what the Internet Business Mastery, and so many, even I did this back in the day, taking a video and just popping an audio from a podcast and putting one slide on there to, like, hopefully it was like all these words of like what to do next and get your free gift here and blah, 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 title the episode. And it just stayed that way the whole time for like an hour. Again, don't do that. No reason to watch it. It's of no benefit to the viewer. You rather just keep it audio only. So that's one way to go about it. There's a person who is on YouTube. I interviewed him. He was the first interview of this year. Rob Maurer from Tesla Daily. He is somebody who created a podcast for audio first experience. But he takes his audio, which is very informational. It's not typically interviews. It's typically just him as a solo show. And he then puts it into a video and puts a whole load of B-roll in there. Thankfully, Tesla does supply a lot of B-roll for the media and for us to use at no cost, no license required. And what he does is he just has B-roll. If he's talking about some spreadsheet, he pops on his spreadsheet. If he's talking about some sort of event, he'll show clips from the event or whatever. Again, he just goes and scours the internet, probably has people helping him find the B-roll. He doesn't even show up on camera. He's growing faster on YouTube than he is on his audio show, even though it's an audio first platform, because the algorithm has taken place, because Tesla has been in the news, and because his information is better than anybody else's, in my opinion. Right? So it's all B-roll. He doesn't even show up at all, hardly. Sometimes he does a video interview, in which case, yeah, it's still helpful and informational, but it doesn't get nearly the same amount of views as his regular VODs or videos on demand, right? And again, that's Rob from Tesla Daily. Ali says, how long is this scheduled for? We're going for another 36 minutes, just till the top of the hour. Yep. How are we all feeling? We good? Are we enjoying the energy here? Thank you for the likes. We went from like 44 to 77 in just like a snap like that, which is pretty cool. So I appreciate you for that. To everybody who left a thumbs up. We're going to see if we can get to 100 by the time we end. So here is, in my opinion, the best way to go about it. If you especially are an audio first podcaster, right? Here's what I would do. Turn the camera on, let a person know it's going to be recorded, but you're going to take clips from it. And that's the big strategy. You're going to take clips from the podcast, because whenever I do an interview, we talk about several different topics, right? There's a theme, right? There's a person, And typically we have, an agenda and a transformation that we're trying to offer the audience. But at the same time, within that 30-minute episode, 45-minute episode, we talk about a lot of things. Instead of taking that whole thing and putting it onto YouTube, and now it's 2 talking heads or switching talking heads, right? Now I'm going to take the part between 14 minutes and 18 minutes, which was about this one thing. I'm going to pull that out. That becomes its own YouTube video. Then there's another part that was really good between 22 minutes and 28 minutes. Pull that out. That becomes its own YouTube video. Now I have several videos that are contained to a specific topic that I can create a search term for that can hopefully get some more viewers, that I can build the click and stick strategy, the title and thumbnail, and then a hook at the beginning of that. The hook may be just picking it up right in the beginning of that part of the interview, or I might even come on and go, hey, what's up, guys? Pat here. In this clip from my podcast, Smart Passive Income, we talked for 4 minutes about how to manage email. It's probably the most important conversation you'll ever hear about email. Here it is. And a little just set up to kind of hook people in case that conversation just kind of starts right in the middle. That works well too. I've also taken clips from episodes that I've recorded with video. I did this with MKBHD, a very prominent YouTube tech reviewer with over 13 million channel subscribers here on YouTube. I interviewed him for 45 minutes for the podcast. It's an audio first podcast, but I turn on the camera. And interestingly enough, I learned so many fun, surprising facts about MKBHD during this time that weren't all mentioned right in a row. They were sort of like spread throughout the podcast. So what I did was I took those parts, those 5 surprising things, and I turned that into its own video. And I called it 5 Surprising Facts About MKBHD. And that has garnered an additional 10,000, I think, views, because people like MKBHD, they want to know these fun, surprising facts. And now those clips, each of those clips, whether you do it that way with a little bit of a intro and a hook, or it just picks up right there, again, because people have searched for or are finding these things based on the topic and the title and the thumbnail, they're more likely to stick around all the way through. That offers a higher retention rate, and it's more likely to be seen by more people. But here's the thing. In the description of that video, you bring people back to your audio podcast to get it in whole. You could also have B-roll to go in. It's a little bit easier to manage 4 minutes worth of video than 45 minutes if you are imagining getting B-roll and putting text in and having things slide on the screen or whatnot. There was a question earlier from somebody who said, how do we, or where do we get B-roll? Easiest thing to do to get B-roll? Film it yourself. It's the easiest thing that we all don't know we have access to. The idea that if I was going to do a video about the Rodecaster Pro, which is the podcasting device that has all these sound effects and stuff, I'm just going to turn on my camera and I'm going to film it. A little bit of a tip. If you have an iPhone or a phone that allows you to do slow-mo, do slow-mo. Because you get that nice fast, and then it gets slow. And then it picks up again, and it looks really, really cool when it's in a B-roll. B-roll means video that you film that is about the subject, or it could be literally anything, and your voice still carries over. So you can actually start to make your videos look very professional if you're talking like this, and then all of a sudden it goes to B-roll like here where I'm showing my computer or something, and this is B-roll in a sense, and there you guys are on the left-hand side. I'm still here at the bottom, so it's not actually B-roll, but you can sort of continue talking while certain things pop up on the screen, which is really cool, right? So, the other thing you can do is you can do a time lapse. Maybe you are going to talk about productivity in a video. Cool, let's set up a tripod, preferably a SwitchPod, one of my companies, switchpod.co, by the way. And I'm just going to I'm going to work for 30 minutes. And I'm going to put my phone on. I'm going to put my phone on time lapse. So now it's just, me working and doing all this stuff super fast, very smooth though, because the camera's not moving. And then I can take that. And as I'm doing a voiceover at the beginning of the video, productivity is one of the hardest things to manage as an entrepreneur. You imagine me moving around like this. Productivity is one of the hardest things to do as an entrepreneur. And then it gets to a slow-mo and all this stuff, right? Like, that's how it could work. Emily, Pat in slow-mo here like a TikTok star. That's funny. Dude, I love those videos where they're just like... Those are so good. Some people master that so well. Time lapse, yes. So again, it just adds a little bit of what? A pattern interrupt. A little bit of professionality with, guess what? B-roll. Speaking of B-roll, I have to give credit to where credit is due. Ali, here on YouTube, Ali Abdal, he is somebody who created a video that was like, you know what? One of the handiest things I've ever done was create a B-roll library. So he talks about productivity. So one day he was just like, I'm just gonna film a whole bunch of like shots of me doing things. And I'm just gonna use those videos when I'm creating other videos as B-roll. And so he has like a little shot of him on the couch writing on an iPad. I could probably do a B-roll of me like doing this. And now it's not B-roll footage that you have to pay $12 to use. Now it's free, and guess what? You are in it too. So that could be really neat. That could be really neat. Whoa. What happened there? Sorry. Create your own B-roll library of your own stuff, right? Go around the neighborhood, start filming plants or whatever. I don't know. Just don't put your own address or your car's license plate or whatever. Like, use common sense, obviously. Other places to get B-roll. You can use any stock video website. Storyblocks is one that I use. And typically, if you're going to be doing this quite a bit, you get a subscription to one where you pay like $40 a month, and then you just go ham. You can use as many of them as you want. You can like literally, my editor for both channels have access to a place where they can it's just like millions of B-roll of like things. iStock Photo has video. It's quite expensive. But there's other places online that you can get B-roll as well. And Storyblocks or Video Blocks, I think. Video Blocks or Storyblocks, one of those is the one that I use, and I love it a lot. B-roll library, that's a good takeaway from today. These are amazing facts. Thanks, Pat. You're welcome, Kano. Thank you so much for your videos, bro. Appreciate you a ton. Thank you, Carlos Lara Life. You're amazing. Cool. So again, my preference, if you're going to be doing both YouTube and podcasting, is to take clips from a larger podcast, pop them onto YouTube to take advantage of the algorithm, to take advantage of that topic, and having that topic alone attract people, to bring people into the videos, to then bring people into your podcast to listen. And again, making sure you have all the links in the description for your podcast for all the platforms, because you can't just go, hey, listen to my podcast, go find it. You want to link to it on Apple. You want to link to it on Spotify, Google Podcast, all the things, so that people can easily just click a button from there and go. If they like what they hear, they're going to come and subscribe and listen to more, right? But you want to have them subscribe on a podcast platform if possible. That's preferential. But these clips in and of itself could become their own playlist. They could become their own channel, JRE Clips, Joe Rogan Experience Clips. That's, in fact, how I found out about the Joe Rogan Show. I don't think I was searching for something. It just showed up in my browse, but it was a very topic-specific thing where Joe had a person on, probably Neil deGrasse Tyson, because I'm into space things. And I think it was like, no, it wasn't this one, but I do remember a video where he was talking about what came first, the chicken or the egg, which is pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, that's what I would recommend. What about C-roll? What is C-roll? What is C-roll? California roll? C-roll in filming. Shooting C-roll. I think there's only A and B. Are you joshing me? I don't know. Jeff says, if your podcast is also a live show, would you still leave the long show on YouTube? I would, if and only if, Jeff. Here's the thing. This is a great transition to some other nuances related to this, so I appreciate that, Jeff. Let me pop your question up here just so we can reference it real quick. So if you're going to be going live, that's great, right? Imagine I'm recording a podcast episode right now. We had Chris Ducker on earlier. I could easily bring him on and we can have a conversation. You're listening to it, all that fun stuff. And then we take that audio, we put it into an audio podcast. Cool. Now, do we keep the live stream up? I would say yes in most cases. That being said, if you wanted it to feel a little bit more kind of, you had to be there, you can remove it. But if you are going to keep it up, and it does get found later, especially if you nail the title and the thumbnail, and especially, and this is the hardest part, where people fail when they kind of try to keep their lives on and they try to get more exposure even after the show, is they don't start off in a way that's conducive to watching later. Many, many people who do live streams start like this. Like imagine it was like, imagine we're starting right now. Okay, hold on. Hey, everybody. Stephanie, Emily, welcome in. CV, we're going to wait a couple minutes here. I hope you guys are having a great day. Let me just make sure we get the, okay, that's working. Okay, okay, cool. We'll start in one more minute here with the live show. We're going to get really excited, and we're going to do the thing. A person watching that later, first of all, is already gone, right? They're like, oh, I had to be there, right? Versus, how do we start these live streams? Hey, what's up? It's Pat here, and today we're going to talk about the differences between podcasting and YouTube, and can you put them together in a way that has them actually both benefit each other and not drive you insane? That's what we're talking about today. Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here, and say hello to your friends here if you're live, if you're watching the replay. Hashtag team replay. Let's get into it. Let's. Right, like that's how you want to start. Literally, even though nobody's there, that's okay, because here's what, after the intro plays, what do? I come back and I go, hey, welcome. Today is Monday, and we're going to talk about this, and this. So it's totally cool to kind of remind people why they're there. Plus, they kind of know what the idea is already. If you start that way, the way I did before and demonstrated, I'd be like, it's not even worth keeping your video up there, to be honest. It's just going to, number one, make all your other videos look bad. It doesn't make all your other, it's going to look worse against your other videos, right? They're gonna be like, why is there only like 29 people watching this video? It kind of like crowds the space. So yeah, I always love how Pat Flynn starts things right to it. Yeah, I learned that from Shalene Johnson. Who is like, I would rather start off for the people who are there early. It's going to train them to want to come early, and many of you do. Thank you, by the way. It's going to help people understand that once it gets started, it gets started. Like, this is why Clubhouse is really cool. You go into Clubhouse and you go into a room, people are already talking. You're like, ooh, I need to catch up, and you're focused, try to get into it, versus like, okay, just waiting around for nothing, right? Hey, Archer says, I miss being here live. Yo, I hope you can all join me next week, by the way, because next week, episode 365, a week from today, we will be streaming at this very time between 9 a.m. Pacific and 3 p.m. Pacific. That is a 306. We're gonna do a 365-minute stream, 9 a.m. to 3:05 p.m., and that will be the end of the year-long The Income Stream. It's gonna be bittersweet. We're gonna not have a stream the next day. I'm gonna take a little bit of a break from the live streams, but I'll come back. I promise. I'm not going anywhere. And when we go live, we might even go live for longer, which would be pretty cool. We're still going to do a lot of the same things. We're still going to give away prizes. We're still going to do some website channel reviews and all those kinds of things. But the daily stream is going to end after next Monday, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. I'm excited, though, because I know that time I will be able to spend on creating more videos that are pre-recorded that can help reach new people. Again, the goal for this channel by the end of the year is to get to 500,000 subscribers, and it's going to take a lot more videos that are fine-tuned and not live to do that. So yeah, that's kind of insane. But I will be able to say I streamed every day for an entire year, and I know that's not a lot of people, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very excited. Have not missed a day, which is pretty crazy. So I know a lot of you are going to feel like there's a little bit of something missing because we have been going live every day. But I've learned so much, and I'm going to package all that I've learned and put them into a video, a pre-recorded video that will come out probably a week or two after the live stream ends. But again, we will definitely be, but 2020 was a leap year. Oh, dude, you're actually right. I'm so grateful for 365, but feel sad it's ending. Yeah, but where one door closes, another one opens, and I promise we're not going to, it's only the beginning. It's only the beginning. It's like a commencement, right? So anyway, I don't want to get into tears now. Let's keep going. I'd love to spend the next 20 minutes answering your questions about YouTube versus podcasting and how to do both, right? Now, there are some questions that I know come up often when this topic arises. For example, if I'm recording a video, should I use that audio for the podcast or should I record on a separate device? Ideally, you're using one good microphone for both, but in many cases, you want a podcast on like a nice mic like this, but you don't want the video to look like this. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. That's not gonna be good. So, Corey is a fortune teller, basically. Yes. So, ideally, you'd want one microphone that would cover the job, right? Which is why if you're going live or if you are recording a video, try to get as good audio quality as possible. This is why I love shotgun microphones like the one I'm using right now. It's a mic that you can see right here off of camera, right there. I don't even know if, yeah, it's just like literally right off of camera. That's the beauty of it. It sounds really good, but it's out of frame. So I can use it both for video and I can take this and use it for podcasting. I don't personally do that because, again, remember, I don't take the audio from the videos and put them into a podcast. If I were, this is the mic I would use. I'll tell you what the mic is in a sec. But otherwise, I use my Heil PR40 here. There's many different kinds of microphones, but this is a microphone I use for podcasting that I absolutely love. And yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. So for video specifically, I prefer a shotgun mic. There are a couple that I recommend. And again, this is a shotgun mic here that is, it literally is like just pointed right at my mouth. It's similar to the ones that you see like if you're watching the behind the scenes of a show of Friends, of an episode of Friends, there's like that guy, the audio guy, who has like that boom arm that's sort of up and pointed down. That's kind of how they get those voices without having to wear a microphone. So shotgun mic, this is a Rode NTG5. It's their latest version, I believe, and it's a little bit expensive, $400 or $500, but I absolutely love it. It plugs into my Rodecaster Pro, and that allows me to collect this, and I can even record it separately if I wanted to. So the beauty of this is if I was recording this situation for a podcast, I'm recording on this mic here, and it's going into video, right? It's going into the video. But at the same time, I could record it raw using the Rodecaster Pro. So I can hit this button right here to record, and it will record it separately. So I don't have to worry about taking the video out of YouTube and then having the audio compressed. I can have it high quality, and that's, again, a Rodecaster Pro. Now, there is a shotgun mic that actually is USB. This is not USB. This is XLR, and XLR means it's that three-prong connector to another audio device of some kind, and you need either a soundboard or a mixing board of some kind to then plug into your computer to be able to read. So I recommend there's another Rode mic that is actually USB. I think it's the Rode, let me find out the name of it. Rode Shotgun USB-C. Rode Video Mic Pro. The Rode Video Mic NTG. Is this what it is? Hold up. Let me see this. Rode Video Mic Pro. No, that's not it. No. Rode NTG Shotgun USB. Rode Video Mic NTG. There it is. It's this one right here. So Rode Video Mic NTG, analog and USB camera mount. So this can then plug into your computer and used as your, for cameras, mobile devices, and computers. This would allow you to remove the need for something like a Rodecaster Pro. Although the Rodecaster Pro can still enhance the audio, you wouldn't have that. But this can then plug directly into your computer, and you can use it from there. So for podcasting, I use, we're at 100 likes. Congratulations, chat. Thank you so much for that. And we still have some time. So the podcasting mic I use is the PR40 from Heil, H-E-I-L. That works really well. But there are some mics that you can check out if you look up Mic Reviews Pat Flynn on YouTube, or if you go to kit.co/Pat Flynn. kit.co/PatFlynn. Actually, let me take you there now just so you'll see what it is. Kit.co/PatFlynn. This will take you to my kit page that has a couple of kits for, this is a beginner podcasting kit here that's very, very inexpensive, and a iPhone or Android, I should mention that, travel kit for if you wanted to record a podcast on the go using your phone, which is pretty cool. So again, that's kit.co/PatFlynn. There we go. There's a lot of options, right? There's a lot of options. But I love this mic, the Rode mic. It's really good. Okay, so what other questions might you have? I see a question here from, what do you hook that microphone into? Looked at the NTG5. Oh, get that microphone and Rodecaster Pro 2 as a match. You don't have to have the Rodecaster Pro. The Rodecaster Pro is a beast of a soundboard, though. I mean, I absolutely love this thing. I can do so many things with it, from sound effects, like I said, to I have my even storytime music right there, to I can adjust. I can actually bring in music and or sound from my computer and actually have it feed into the audio. I can even Bluetooth connect my phone. And my phone's audio can then be coming through the mic and into the system. Then not through the mic, but into the system too, which is pretty cool. Chris says, I cannot stress enough how great dynamic microphones are over a condenser for podcast. The noise rejection is just so much simpler. So yeah, dynamic would be preferred. Because we're all dynamic people, right? Would you introduce the clip at all on YouTube or just play it? I would introduce it and experiment with that. But if you are going to introduce it, let's get right into it, right? Especially if you're a personal brand, I think that putting yourself out there and saying like, hey, welcome, in this video, you're going to see a conversation I had with MKBHD about how to do a review properly. If you're doing any sort of reviews on YouTube and you want to make the most money from it, you want to get the most exposure for it, MKBHD brought the goods. Here he is. Versus going right into it and MKBHD is just talking, yeah, you can get the same value. And in fact, it just gets right into it, which might be better. But I like, especially as a personal brand, to show up and be the connector between where they came from and where they're going. But you got to keep it short. If you ramble at all, it's gonna detract from the success with that. Okay, man, COVID world, mucho Zoom sessions. How can we make these videos interesting for YouTube? So if you're going to be recording Zoom sessions, yeah, it can be something that is a little bit sort of lackluster, right? So number one, having good audio is going to be really key. Zoom is going to actually compress your audio quite a bit. It still is okay to use, but if you have the ability to record audio separately, maybe you're both also tapped into something like Squadcast, or at least you on your end, you're recording something that sounds a little bit more dynamic, then that would be lending itself. And the reason why I started with audio is because audio, to me, is actually more important than video. You can argue with me against this, but let me paint you a scenario. Imagine a very crappy looking video with good audio. You're still gonna watch it, right? Because you can hear everything that's going on. But imagine a quality video with terrible audio. You're out, right? So audio is very important. That's why I started there. So secondly, you can record your video separately too, right? So I'm recording this on my DSLR. This is actually being used as my webcam. And I can just hit record on this and actually capture that separately. And then I can intersperse myself. I can edit my good quality video when I'm talking. And I can just have a little bit, more grainy video that comes from the guest. Most importantly, I think what would happen, though, to make this thing a little bit more interesting would be to edit with some B-roll, edit with some text that pops up on the screen, or if you both happen to be talking about, New York, well, pop up a picture of New York or something, and maybe it's a nice time-lapse image that starts to add a little bit of flavor, right? The baseline is the video that you get from Zoom and the audio that comes with it. Let's just start adding components to it if you can to start to level it up. Are there any benefits to real-time monitoring when recording a podcast? Yeah, especially if you're doing an interview. If you, of course, are in person, that's always good, so you can hear the other person and just the other person alone. There's no distractions, and you get to hear their audio levels to make sure that they're not clipping, which means it's going into the red and not the, the green, yellow, red sound meter. You do not want it to go to red. You can't rescue it, or you can hardly rescue it if it goes to the red. You can always up the volume, but it's hard to turn that clipping off. once it's recorded. But for me personally, I don't like having things on my ears when I'm talking. So for me, when I record at home, at least, I don't have anything in my ears. Sometimes I have earbuds, but I don't have to worry with the microphones I'm using for audio bleed. What audio bleed means is that the sound from your speakers are going into your microphone, and that can create not just a feedback, but imagine you are recording a person talking in real time, but then with a slight delay, the audio from that person coming through your speakers going into your microphone gets captured on your end. And now you get a little bit of a tiny delay, and that's not good either. Can Ecam help with the audio quality while recording video as well? I love Ecam for recording. It's actually really, really great. And it's it's really good quality, way better than Zoom for sure. Temi says, but prep. It's so much easier to do better quality interviews. Yeah, I mean, you got to prep, right? Now, prep means something different to different people. For me, if I have an author on, for example, I'm not reading every single book. In fact, I'm not even reading the book. I want to go into it with the same knowledge about it and interest as a member of my audience. Of course, I'm going to do a little bit of research, so I'm just not like, hey, what do you do? Like, I want to guide the conversation and know where I want my audience to end up. But at the same time, I don't want to have my audience feel like they are not in the right room. Meaning, and this is how I feel when I listen to some podcasts, when two people are already so knowledgeable about something, they're having a conversation that's outside of my comprehension and understanding. And then as a listener, I don't feel like I'm involved. I just feel like I'm not relevant or not even thought about, versus the approach I take is I want to be in the shoes of my audience and represent them and ask the questions that they're all thinking about too. But there's different ways to go about it. 110 likes. I wonder if we can get to 125. If you've come in late and you want to help us get to 125, our first goal was 100. Our stretch goal is 125. So let's see if we can get there. I mean, prep with your gears. Oh, of course. Yes, thank you. Run tests, please. Do an interview with a friend first before you do it with, and don't, and like record it knowing you're not going to publish it. Just like go through all the motions first so that you know that when it's actual time to do this, you have done it once before, right? Now, I will say you will definitely run into issues whenever there's tech involved and there's equipment and stuff. Like, it's going to happen. You're going to forget to hit record, or you're going to have the wrong input, or you're going to have something plugged in, in not the right spot. Even though you checked it before, it still, for whatever reason, didn't work. It's just going to happen, and just expect it to happen. Don't try to make that happen, obviously, but if you expect it, you're not going to be so upset at yourself or just the world when that happens. Just like, oh, this is one of those things. Let's just kind of rebound from this and get back into it. Look at that, 125 likes. Can we get to 6,000 likes in the next 2 minutes? I'm just kidding. You got to kind of set big goals, but you kind of have to be realistic at the same time. So when is Just in Time Learning book by Pat coming out? I don't know, Uncle Bill. This is in reference to the new book that I'm writing. It's a book in reference to a number of things related to productivity, specifically the idea that we live in content bloat right now, which it means we're consuming way more than we need to. We are learning too much, and we're not taking any action as a result. And we just have this built-in habit to feel like we're missing out if we don't continue to learn, in which case I understand, but at the same time, you need to take action on these things, or you might as well not even learn at all. That's going to be the big difference between failure and success for a lot of people, in my opinion. So this book is going to be written later this year. Have just finished the outlining of it, honestly. And we are in the middle of creating a proposal for it. A proposal is for traditional publishers to potentially work with me on a book traditionally. I'm not saying I'm going to be publishing this traditional. It's just a proposal. I want to see what's out there. I'm going to fish around a little bit and see what's available. In my opinion, this book is probably going to be self-published, but I might get a great deal, and it might be a good partner who can help support the mission of the book, and I think that's going to go a long way. So we will see. Cool. Thank you for that question. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the book ends up. Menno says 6,000 likes only. Let's do it in the chat. We are all powerful. Yeah, we'll see what happens when we get to next week, because we'll have a hour and 5 minute. That's 365-minute stream. I wonder how many likes we can get. We can probably get to 1,000 easy, and we'll see what happens. Cynthia says, yes. I don't know what that's in reference to, but yes. I have a few episodes out. How do I find more listeners? Well, it's not through social media. I think a lot of people who are podcasters expect that when they publish their podcast, even if it's fancy with an audio video thing that takes a clip and posts it on social media, I mean, that's still important. It's still great to remind people who already know you exist that you came out with a new episode. But that hardly does anything for finding new people. In order to grow your show, you need to be found by new people, and that can happen in multiple ways. One of my favorite ways is to be a guest on another person's podcast. Not only are you on a podcast app where other podcast listeners are already, and not only are you able to put your voice in front of an audience that you don't know, you're able to also get the endorsement from the host being a guest on that show as well, which is really, really cool. So I'm excited about that. The other thing is create something worth talking about. Word of mouth is still a very, very important component of how a podcast can grow. And it's so important, in fact, that I recommend stepping out of your comfort zone to create something that is maybe every once in a while a little controversial, or at least sparks a conversation, because that'll get people to listen and bring their friends on board too. Mano says, 6 hours is a lot for the streamer. You asked for this. 6 hours is going to go by so fast, you have no idea. You have no idea. It was originally going to be a 24-hour stream, but I don't think that's safe. Temmie says, who does the jingles by yourself? Do you get those ready-made somewhere? Yes. Music Radio Creative is where I'd recommend. There's a lot of places you could hire somebody probably on Fiverr to create a jingle for you, which probably would be cheaper. But all of my jingles from Ask Pat to this right here.
This is
Sorry. That is coming from Isabella and Mike over at Music Radio Creative. They're so great. And the way that I created that was I hummed it myself and I created the lyrics, and then I sent that to them and they found a person to produce it, because that's their service. You come up with whatever thing you want, they will go make it happen. Even if it's a simple podcast intro or you want a full custom song, they're like, okay, we know a band that can do that for you, or whatever. If you need like kids singing in the background, they can make that happen. Like, it doesn't matter. Music Radio Creative. I love the income stream song. Thank you.
This is the income stream to help you
achieve your dream. It is very catchy. I had somebody reach out to me yesterday and said, I'm still singing the song in my head even hours after the stream ended. So on one hand, awesome. On a second hand, I apologize. Bill says, if you crowdfund with a slice, Uncle Bill is ready to jump in on that train. Thank you. Let's see. Gonna take off. Was that expensive? To be quite honest with you, they did that to me pro bono because they know I mention them all the time. So I don't know necessarily what the price would be, but I would imagine it's a few $100s to get a custom song done like that. You can get, again, on Fiverr.com, something a lot cheaper, most likely, although it's not going to be to the high quality that Music Radio Creative can do. But it's worth at least experimenting and trying. Dr. Applesauce 2 says, hey, didn't realize this was live. Ha, awesome. Well, now you know for sure because I just called you out. Mano says, I believe it'll go by fast when you're having fun. Time goes by really fast. That's why 6 hours will seem like 1 hour for me as well. Yeah, the song sticks in my head at night. Sorry, Brendan. Yes, it's in head a lot, and it's great.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream.
We'll get it in just a minute because we are 1 minute from ending here. And again, thank you so much for coming in today. I hope this was helpful information. If you haven't yet done so, hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 150 before we end the stream. That's asking for a lot, I know, but we saw some new people come in. We dropped some knowledge about YouTube, podcasting, doing them separately, but how do we do them together, and the different kinds of ways to do that, and why you should, and also why you shouldn't. And the truth about why you shouldn't is if you know that you've already said yes to focusing on something and you know you haven't given it all yet, let's not distract ourselves. Let's fully embrace what you've already said yes to. Let's become as efficient and as optimal as possible with that, thus opening up more time to go and explore these other avenues. So thank you so much for today. I appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Let's bring the calendar in so we can see exactly when we will be going live. Tuesday, the 9th. We are very close to not just day 365 next Monday, which I hope you'll come by. I'll set up a weight room for that quite early, in fact, probably in the next couple days, so it's not just the night before. But tomorrow we're going to be live streaming at, it looks like 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Pacific is when we're going to go live. 10 a.m. Pacific, that is at 1 p.m. Eastern, and that is tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to that. So again, thank you so much for coming in today. Look forward to seeing you. And we're almost close to turning the clocks ahead again, which will be nice because we'll get to stay out a little bit later and enjoy more sun, walk the dog out later, etc. So anyway, keep up the good work. Thank you. Take care. And as always, Team Flynn for the win. Let's go.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
Thanks so much for today. I appreciate you. You're awesome. Keep up the good work, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Peace out.